Hey, what's up, guys? How are you doing? Welcome to another edition of Straight Talk Podcast with Professor Red Pill and Adam Maxwell from Liberty Rising Group. Today, we are talking about the Iran war that has rapidly escalated into one of the most volatile global conflicts of 2026. So, what started as tensions around nuclear negotiations and regional proxy wars has turned into direct military confrontation between the United States, Israel, Iran, and for the most part, GCC as well, featuring airstrikes, missile attacks, and rising global economic pressure. So, at the center of this is Donald Trump, i.e., Orange Daddy, and his leadership style. So it's marked by bold claims of victory, shifting war goals, and simultaneous pushes for negotiation. While Trump has declared success, or victory, if you will, and floated peace plans, Iran has rejected U.S. terms outright, continuing military operations and demanding major concessions like control over the Strait of Hormuz and full sanctions relief. So this creates a striking contradiction between escalation and de-escalation happening at the same point or the same time, and what many are calling a form of bipolar leadership, or as I'm coining it, bipolar leadership in a wartime decision-making process. Meanwhile, troop deployments continue, strikes persist, and diplomacy remains uncertain. Again, thank you for joining us tonight. If you can, like and subscribe. Join Locals, the T Club. Remember Rumble 3 that's scrolling down here. Promo code Rumble 3 gets you $3 off your first month's membership. And again, in the Rumble, we do deep dives. I have master classes, book club. We're going over the Brave New World, among other things for paid members, and my book, Unleash Your Inner Sigma Male. That being said, Mad Max, take us off.
Thank you. Was it week 4 of the conflict? Still a lack of any clear plan. Supposedly, according to Iran, according to Israel Channel 12, America put forward a 15-point plan, starting with removing the sanctions, dealing with Iran's nuclear program, dealing with Isfahan. What goes forward? Iran's rejected it. It's unclear, really, what's going on. There are some people that are saying, quite commonly, America, they don't know what they're doing. That Israel, they don't know what they're doing. I think I saw an interview with a former head of Mossad, or I saw an excerpt where he said that he understands that Israel, America genuinely believed they're going to decapitate the Iranian regime, and then there's going to be a regime change. People protesting on the streets, it's going to happen, it's all going to change. I still struggle in actually believing that. I can't imagine that's really what they believed. I can accept that some ideologues and stupid people, of which a lot of the government is made up of ideologues and stupid people, I can believe that they hoped for this outcome. What I just don't believe is that they didn't have a plan. Okay, well, what if that doesn't happen? Like, how are we continuing this? So, who knows? Maybe they're more stupid than even we give them credit for. Maybe they have less competence. As we've said consistently, we still don't really see a pathway towards victory. The last podcast we discussed 1 week ago how difficult it is to follow this war, to verify everything's this missile, that missile. You're not allowed to view these sensitivities. There's not lines on a map we can view. So it's been the most difficult conflict to follow thus far. Who's winning? I don't know. It seems that the Iranian government really is taking a beating, that their military has been degraded to a large extent, but I don't see it having passed that critical threshold. Drones, underground missile bases, then their navy, this Revolutionary Guard Corps. It's not the same category, obviously, as the United States military. Their navy, their conventional navy, my understanding, is mostly at the bottom of the ocean, destroyed, out of service, whatever. But supposedly they have like underground kind of bases with speedboats full of explosives and unmanned water-based drones and these kind of things, and they can, or I believe they can, but have yet to mine the Hormuz Strait. So it seems very difficult to see actually how things are going to proceed. I've seen one coherent plan put forward that the USA could mount an assault in Chamdahar, in southeast Iran, in Baluchistan, maybe. Is that
Yeah,
how you're going to solve this?
it's an island that basically is contains a lot of Iran's LNG storage and refining stuff. I'm
No,
not too
that's
familiar,
Karg
or is that something
Island.
different?
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
Karg Island.
Karg
Okay,
Island. That is right up in the Strait of Hormuz. It's
okay,
all the way up nearer to Iraq, Qatar.
okay.
I'm talking about the very bottom right of
Oh, you're
Iran.
talking about the bottleneck where they can. Yeah,
There's
I
a
know that
bay
this.
in
Okay,
Baluchistan.
okay,
It's called Chabahar Bay. Like
hmm.
History Legends put out a video. He said, "Look, here's maybe 3 or 4 attack plans. You can go for the Karg Island. That's the big one that everyone's talking about. It seems to me that's entirely pointless. You land, and then Iran now just drone strikes you repeatedly. Okay, they're dead. Okay, well, there's another island, the one with the Portuguese fort in it, Kashim. You have the same problem. Okay, well, then you can try a coalition, a naval assault in the Gulf of Oman, like just the Navy area there. Seems doomed. Okay, well, how about Chabahar in the very south of the country? Maybe it seems the most viable. I don't know if it's. I don't know if it's. It's very difficult to say. I mean, but certainly you can go back to World War II. The bombs weren't enough. The aerial bombs. You need the boots on the ground. You need the physical support and regime control and change, and that's the big question. I'm still not seeing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think that strategically, Trump is waiting for other countries to get involved, or at least support a coalition of the willing, if you want to put it that way. Basically, the situation is it's not too much dissimilar from the Iraq War with GW. But the thing is with GW is they stay at a staging period where they did a troop buildup, and they hit targets initially, and then they sent ground troops in. In this particular instance, I believe the strategy is, as they pointed out in the beginning, was a special military operation to hit targets, regime change, get the people within the country to revolt or to create a revolution, color revolution. Um, I mean, they've been trying to do this for a while now that we've been covering, and other influencers and people that are obviously more expertise in this particular region. My expertise is predominant is the Caucasus and Black Sea region. Um, and like Iran, I know a little bit about it in relevance to the Caucasus, but like I said, I do know a little bit about military strategy, and I've been expert in policy, foreign policy and international relations. But I digress. The situation is that you have to stage an invasion, boots on the ground, and sending 2,000 Marines is not a military staging process. That's a containment. That's for, i.e., like I said, special military operations. So that's for like whatever is that they're going to do. Most likely contain certain smaller geographic areas of interest, but until they actually start mobilizing massive buildup, we don't need. Like I said, I can't really anticipate any type of large scale invasion at this point, because there's no indication of any type of huge military buildup. Right now, it's just they're bringing a lot of planes and a lot of ordinances and strategic communication and this sort of thing. So, yeah, I don't know.
So the reports are 2,500, even as much as 6,000, maybe Marines are maybe moving into the area. As you say, maybe that's a special operation, something. Who knows? Like perhaps the Karg Island, it just seems so impotent on arrival. So perhaps it's just a media narrative, which is an effective part of warfare, deception. Focus on Karg. Iran needs to keep enough defense, and the other one, but it just doesn't seem it. I'm not in the military. I've not served in the military. I'm not even, I'm not an armchair general. To me, it seems I wouldn't go for Karg Island if I was against Iran. Just doesn't with drones and missiles. It seems everyone would be wiped out. So it doesn't seem that they're planning any large scale invasion yet. Staged invasion, maybe. One thing that is promising is, as you say, this is something that they came out immediately. It was framed as Trump is already setting up the conditions for if he loses, he can blame it on the Iranian people. Maybe. The alternative is no. You need the boots on the ground, whether that be a foreign occupation force or a rival organized minority within the country that becomes the new ruling regime. That's what you need. So one promising thing is that supposedly America and Israel have not said to Iranians, now's the time to rise up, take to the streets. They say, wait. If that's the case, okay. If they're saying wait, that does imply staging, which does imply some kind of plan or strategy, which is more than more than you have come to expect out of the Western leadership. The alternative here is, as things continue going, Iran. There's reports about how much they're striking, where they're striking, who and why. I think the big concern is the attrition, depletion of air defense missiles. So as the war continues, is the Iranian government becoming less stable, more vulnerable? Is there rumbling? Are things crescendoing up to some kind of climax and plan? Or have they really started this with no real idea? It's just going on. Iran have the. This is a question. I'm not asserting this. This is a maybe. Maybe Iran have enough aerospace, missiles, drones. They're attriting the air defenses. Is Israel America getting weaker as the war goes on, or are they getting stronger as they keep blowing things up in Iran? My understanding is they've been quite successful at what they're blowing up in Iran. But also the Iranians, one can agree with them on things, disagree, consider that some actions justified. The one thing I will say about Iran, regardless of everything else, is I just don't agree with them ideologically. I don't align with Shia or any Islam. And Shia Islam is quite a radical, well, that's whatever, who cares? They love death, honestly. I mean, the martyrdom for them is the greatest achievement. So that it does seem, on one hand, look, you can take out 8 rings of their leadership and maybe that causes the collapse in the regime. On the other hand, you're dealing with people who love their own people dying and say, thank Allah that our leader's dead and his top advisor's dead, and we're just going to double down and keep going harder.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, yeah, it's. I think the situation is that there was a strategy to go in, and like I said, in any type of strategy, being in a business strategy or a military strategy or geopolitical strategy, it requires you to analyze the data and make assessments in real time. And that's more or less what I think that they're at right now, is that they're reassessing, and they went in with an initial strategy, and they've made adjustments and are continuing on. Now, when this will end, I don't know. The question that we have right now, how will this end? Will Ukraine end before the Iran conflict? We did discuss this in previous podcast that we had anticipated a Ukrainian conflict to end by last summer or over the summer before last fall, and that didn't happen. There were peace. We did anticipate peace negotiations in Ukraine, which did happen, but it fell through. So it is what it is. The same thing with this, and we talked about this many times, and you can see this throughout the U.S. Geopolitical strategy between both administrations. That basically they do a kind of, we're going to negotiate, and then while we're negotiating, we're planning in the background. And regardless of whatever the negotiations go, we're going to anticipate further strikes and further movement of whatever strategy that they had initially anticipated. And this is kind of a I wouldn't necessarily say a sneak attack, but their plans were never really to get to any deal or negotiation. It was literally to buy time. We saw this with the Ukraine conflict from the beginning, going
From
back
the
to the
beginning.
yeah, from sorry, yeah, from the very beginning, we saw this in that conflict where Nuland basically was buying time. They were funding the Ukrainian military, sending assets, training soldiers, and the anticipation was they did a peace deal. They signed the peace accords. It was the
Minsk,
peace accord.
Minsk 1,
Yeah,
Minsk 2.
Correct. So they had signed these and they agreed to these, and then they, I guess the Russia decided to do a special military operation because they were anticipating an attack preemptively.
Every single European leader involved in the Minsk peace deals has since come out on record to say these were not serious deals. These were signed in order to temporarily appease the Russians and buy time for us to build up the Ukrainian military so we can go and defeat Russia and impose our will over, above, and contravening these peace deals that we've signed. So they don't care for peace, obviously. With Iran, definitely the 12-day war last year, Operation Broken Spear, I would class that as a surprise attack. This one as well. Everyone seemed to be expecting it, except for Ali Khamenei and his grandchildren and all his generals in his house. Now again, there's the Iranians say, well, he's a man of the people and of principle. He says, I'm going to stay at my home no matter what. Maybe, but from my perspective, if you're gonna do that, don't have also your top generals at your house on that day that we said it's probably going to happen, this Friday, Saturday. And they drop a bomb and it kills him and some generals. It kills the current supreme leader, who no one has actually seen as far as I understand it. His wife was killed. I think he allegedly narrowly escaped by being outside. But also I thought the bombs dropped at like 5 a.m. So I have no idea. It's very, very strange. The point is there's a cope, a narrative that, that he wanted to die. Okay. If you're saying that they genuinely thought it was probably going to happen, all I'm saying is I would not have been at my house with many vulnerable people all around me if I were the supreme leader, even if I was like, Bismillah, take me. So, surprise attack, sure. Perfidy, yes. One thing is clear. The Western elites, they don't care for peace and law and security and prosperity. They care about imposing their will and regional hegemony. And that's fine if that's what it's illegal, it's a war of aggression, all that good liberal stuff. Just come out and say it. This is an imperial war of regional hegemony. Do as we say or we're going to bomb you. And that's what they've done. That's seemingly what they've said.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, there's a question that came in about Russia and negotiations, and I've said many times on this in the Telegram group as well. Links in the description as you see with the strolling here down. It's in the link, and it's all their legacy group. and I have discussed this extensively. Russia's goal is to get back into the European marketplace, selling their LNG and oil. Um, they've really taken a huge hit on the sanctions, and obviously the discounted oil, if you will. China's bought up a lot of that oil. India and other countries that at a discount. So Russia, every barrel that they sell, every barrel they pump, they're losing money as the military operation continues in Ukraine. So it's a lose-lose for Europe as well as Russia. And like I said, any type of major conflict, like World War II, World War One, Europe gets devastated. Economies of scale get destroyed. Wartime economies, people die. Civilian centers get obliterated, and it causes a lot of loss, and a lot of loss not only of people, but loss of military assets as well as loss of treasure, and different types of infrastructure gets destroyed and obliterated and has to be rebuilt. It is what it is. Russia's economy has been affected by the military involvement in Ukraine, but also Europe has, and Ukraine has been completely destroyed as a result of this. And that's where we're going to see much similarities between the GCC and with and with Ukraine, like very similar, identically similar. I mean, we could go back to see the beginning of this conflict with the Gaza Strip, as I believe nearly 50% of Gaza Strip, and don't hold me that, I don't know how the exact statistics because a lot of that stuff is ongoing, has been destroyed basically, and displaced people, refugees, and all kinds of humanitarian issues has ensued. This I talked about this in original podcast when I first started podcasting on the Straight Talk channel. And I had Mario. I believe it was volume number 4. It was like the 4th podcast that we created, and this happened after the October 7th operation. And I had said that this is going to expand into a regional conflict, and eventually it's going to lead into an Iranian conflict, and it's going to be regional between, the NATO and Iran, Russia, China, all of this. It's going to expand. And I broke down China's involvement, the fact that they want to their main purpose and goal is to maintain the shipping lanes in the Indian Ocean, the Chinese Sea, the Asian Pacific, and ports in South America, which they have done. We've gone over this extensively for the last 2-3 years. Everything that I had predicted, everything I had said and broke down in analytics has come to fruition. We're in this war. Said that we'd eventually be in this war by 2030. It's 2026. We're in the conflict. Now it's quickly becoming a World War III scenario. I don't think it's at World War III yet, but the thing is World War II, they didn't think World War II was going to be a major global war. They said, we already fought World War I. It was the war to end wars. And then now they find themselves into another conflict, i.e. World War II. And the reality of that is that you can, if you go to Wikipedia, you go, it broke down all the declarations of war. We don't declare war anymore on people. Although we've recently seen this with Saudi Arabia and other countries in the region that have made declarations of war. So this is the first stages of an actual major global World War III. So I mean, that's where we're at right now. So I think we're at the cusp. We're at the beginning of it. And a lot of influencers, a lot of like so-called experts were saying we're in World War III. We're in World War III for the last 2 years or since the Russian conflict. No, we weren't close. I had said we weren't in World War III. We were heading to World War III, but Ukraine was not the catalyst for this. The catalyst is definitely Iran, because Iran's a significant sized country with a lot of resources and a huge military capacity. And the end game is basically expansion of a greater Israeli state, United States influence in the region, because China, Russia, the United States, these 3 major empires, they're all had their eyes on the Middle East. They've had their eyes on the GCC in the Middle East decades now, as well as South America, what happened recently before this conflict began. So I think the strategy is for like said, for NATO, for the United States, is to continue to control the treasure, i.e., oil and assets in the region. I don't know so much about regime change per se, but obviously that's more of an Israeli GCC issue. I think they are more interested in a regime change, and plain and simply because they just do not like or trust the Iranians. The United States doesn't really. I don't think the United States really cares so much about Iranian oil. If anything, they probably don't want the oil to get into the marketplace because it's going to cause huge price fluctuations. Same thing with Russia. I mean, the fact that Russia is at discounted oil is they enter they enter the oil market, and it's going to bring down the price of oil. I don't think the big oil and the bankers want that per se. I think they want to make sure that they have a strategic price fixing of the oil market. And I think that's where the separation between geopolitical strategy and business strategy, trade policy differ. I could be wrong, but I don't know. What do you think, Adam?
Well, what's the point of regime change? Who cares? Is it because they're an Islamic theocracy that we hate them? No, it's because they act in ways, their policies are counter to what the West, what America, Israel want. That's like oil. It's important. Obviously, it's important. The Middle East, oil, assets, resources. Obviously, it's important. But when it comes about regime change, the reason they care is mostly down to security. If Iran accepted the legitimacy and existence of the state of Israel, they would not be in all these problems. There could be problems. Countries fight. Poland and Germany, sometimes they get along, sometimes they got some conflicts. This issue, that issue, but these are things that can be resolved. There is a fundamental. I characterized the Iranian government regime as radical. I'm radical. I have principles. I stick to them. You're not going to convince me to do certain things that I will not do in a matter of principle, radical principle. Iran's like that too. The thing is, and this is where I don't disagree with them being radical. I disagree with what they're radical about. The sticking point is they don't accept the legitimacy and existence of the state of Israel. Therefore, they pose themselves in opposition to the West, and this is why you'll see Netanyahu say, "Hello, my name is Benjamin Netanyahu." Iran, they describe Israel as the little Satan, but it's America who's the great Satan. And so they're not after us. They're not after me. They're after you. I'm just in the way. It's true, sure, to an extent, but the point is that Iranian oil, yeah, you're probably right, and these things matter, but I don't think they're the primary contention. The primary contention, what they're fighting over, is the regime. And again, that's not if it's a liberal democracy, a democratic republic, a theocracy, a monarchy. No one cares the form of government. It's what is that government doing? And that government, Iran, has positioned itself as the leader of the axis of resistance to Israel, which is itself approximate to American power in the region. And as you say, ultimately it comes down to not just empires, super empires. America, Russia, China, right? 3 parts of the world. America's got its Western hemisphere. Russia's got it's massive, hovering over the Eurasian island. China's on the periphery. There's Europe as well, which is steadily withering away, as you mentioned earlier. And you have the Middle East, West Asia, that's kind of in the center of